Welcome to the Worship Leader Coaching Podcast, helping you go from leading songs to leading people. I'm your host, Caleb Holgerson. On this show, I talk with local church worship leaders about worship, leadership, creativity, and teamwork. We believe that by working together and learning from each other, we can build worshiping churches that are passionate about the presence of God. Let's get started. Well, y'all, today I am here with Nick and Melissa Morrow of Mountaintops Music, and so excited about our conversation today. We're going to talk about creativity and Jesus and probably some other stuff. I'm pretty pumped about it. How are you guys? Thanks for joining me.
Hey.
So good. Thanks for having us, man. It's an honor to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we kind of dive into our subject today, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourselves and about Mountaintops and your family and anything else?
Gosh, where to start? So we are married, been married for 10 years now, just celebrated 10 years. Yeah.
Awesome. 11.
That's right. We're coming up on 11.
Yeah.
So 2020, we had a COVID 10-year anniversary, which is terrible.
Right. Sounds like it.
Yeah. We got tacos and they got our order wrong. So, and ate with our kids. So not a great anniversary.
We ate in the minivan.
Nice.
Nice. That's right.
So very romantic.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. We have 4 children, ages 11 to 18 months.
Wow.
We're awesome. We've got 3 boys and a girl, and we've actually got another little girl on the way.
Wow. Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. That's awesome. That's so much fun.
Yes. And so much.
Yes, that is much. Man.
Our house is buzzing all the time. But so we live in Indianapolis, started a church here in Indianapolis, and are currently actually relocating to the Nashville area.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
It's family life. And then you want to share about Mountaintops?
Yeah. So Mountaintops started, so back up. We actually met through playing in a band together.
Okay.
So Nick heard from a friend who was in the band that she had a friend who plays cello, and
she was cute.
He was like, well, we got to have her come play. And so that's how we met. And we played in that band for, 4 years.
Awesome.
So we have always had a shared love and passion for making music. And it wasn't until we were called into the ministry and we kept hearing words saying, you're called to do ministry together. And we thought that meant at our church, but then I think we realized it was more towards music ministry. And then we started thinking about forming another band, which then became Mountaintops. And it's been kind of like an evolution of when we first started it, we had this idea that we would have different people like singing and leading with us, different artists writing with us. And then it somehow turned into just Nick and I, kind of.
Yeah.
We still collaborate a lot, but it was more focused in after our last album, In the Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where we're at right now with Mountaintops.
Very cool.
So we've been doing it, 5 years?
No, it hasn't been 5. Has it?
Yeah, I think so. 16, our first single, yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
It's been longer than it seems. But yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Talk about that transition a little bit. You said you guys felt called into ministry together in some capacity. So like what kind of music were you doing before? Did that change? Or tell me about that transition and what it looks like to really step into that.
Yeah, well, that's like the comic book origin story.
Yeah.
Anyways, right? Because so we played in a band, and while everyone or most of the people in the band were Christians or would have identified that way, we didn't necessarily do Christian music.
Sure.
More of like folk songwriter. So Melissa played cello, and there was violin and upright bass and trumpet and piano and guitar. Like there was a ton of different members, and it was a big collective, and that was a lot of fun. Incredibly impractical, but incredibly fun.
Yeah.
It only took us like 15 years to do one song.
Yeah, it was
forever.
So hard. So many cooks in the kitchen, and yet so far the same. So we quit. We realized we couldn't travel as much and stuff after we started having kids, and that's around the time we felt called into the ministry. And after a few years in the church, we began to experiment with like, what does it look like to write songs for the church? Because up to that time, going into the ministry, I'd had this really like, I hate worship music mentality. Me especially. I was pretty hardcore about that. And I was like, well, I guess if I'm a worship pastor, I can at least play guitar at work.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible, like, that was what it took for the Lord to like push me in. But then I found really pretty quickly that was like a big part of my purpose and calling is to be a worship leader. So we began to write songs again, but trying to write for congregational worship, which is so much different than what we'd done before. So we started to get our butts kicked a little bit because we started to learn the rules of like, other people have to sing along. So there's certain things you can and can't do. And there's
having a kalimba in this song doesn't
right. Yeah. So we did that, and we did that for a few years, but then around the time when we started Mountaintops, we were like, what if we could take some of these songs that we're trying to write very like, I don't know how you would say it, but very straightforward songs for the church and produce them in a way that's creative and in our sort of own native tongue or musical style. And maybe our generation would resonate with that a little bit more. Yeah. And so that was really what Mountaintops was born out of, and really still is.
Yeah. Very cool. So, I mean, from hearing that story and then just, you're stalking your Instagram profile and things like that, I know that, you guys seem to do a lot of things with intention and with purpose. I mean, your songwriters, your podcasters, I saw some clothing you designed. Your music helps people encounter Jesus, clothing that helps people talk about Jesus. Talk about creating with a purpose. Why is that important? Do you always have something in mind that, this is why we're doing this, or does that come later, or how's that work?
Yeah, I think that's definitely been since day one. We would start with, our why. I kind of just talked about our why, is why we do it for people to encounter Jesus. But I think that's easier for some people if they hear it in their own dialect, so to speak, Yeah. But the what or the how question, I think that's probably accurate, that we're pretty intentional before we start a lot of times. We'll say, okay, we're writing a congregational song. Like right now we're in a mode, really Mountaintops was born out of a desire for congregational music, but with our record in the Valley, it was kind of born out of some personal tragedy. So we wrote some more personal worship songs. But even in that, we said, okay, we're writing for people who have walked through tragedy and need to find some space to worship Jesus.
Gotcha.
So kind of beginning, we both have a marketing background, you more so than me. So beginning with like the end user in mind is part of probably our MO. And using creativity as servants to the church and servants to people. I think we tried our best to take that mindset of like, okay, we're not ultimately creating for us. Yeah. Which can be hard sometimes to lay. As artists, you want to like, what do they call? People call it like you want to express yourself.
Right.
And this is more like, actually, let's help people. Let's give language to others to express themselves to God in an authentic way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mashup. It's like we really do want our native tongue, per se, to be in the art. The designs that we have are very intentionally not the normal Christian designs, but we also want it to be accessible so people can see that, this isn't something secular. There's something holy about it. There's something, worth talking. Yeah. So it's kind of like meshing those two things together, accessibility and being really focused on God.
Yeah. Yeah. You've used that phrase "native tongue" a couple of times, and I saw something one of you wrote. It was on Mountaintops Instagram, so somebody wrote it. Yes, said we all owe it to the world to worship in our own native musical tongue, not someone else's. So whether it sells or is popular or not, let's bring our voice and our song to him and let it bow at the name of Jesus. Speak to that a little bit more. How does someone find their musical or their native tongue? Why is that important to use what's natural to you as an artist?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of times maybe easier than we make it, especially in the church. And I'll say this, that coming from, since I was a kid and I first started playing music, from day one, for whatever reason, my brothers and I had instruments and we were writing songs. We were writing our own songs. And we were writing songs like what we listened to. That just like, it made sense to us. And I don't think frankly, we didn't know any better.
Sure.
Right? It was just like, we listened to MXPX and Blink-182. Let's write punk songs,
Yes.
I didn't know about anything else.
You get really nasally and fast paced. And yeah.
That's right. Right. So I think that, I think what happens though, because the context of leading and singing or even writing in the church can be so different. I think it's really hard sometimes when you do try to begin with the other in mind.
Yes.
So I'm leading someone in worship or I'm writing for worship. It's really easy to get into this sort of copycat mode. Well, I know like Holy Spirit works. I know that Cornerstone works. So let me try to write a song like that, which there's not anything inherently wrong with, except that sometimes I think that can get in the way of our actual God-given purpose.
Yeah.
So if it's, I mean, imitation, everyone starts with imitation. We all learn from other people, and that's all really important.
Yeah.
But if it always becomes, well, I'm just trying to write a song like Hillsong or like Matt Redman or whoever, because I believe people will sing that and that'll be validating or whatever.
Right.
Then it can keep us from what God is actually calling us to. And I believe each person has like a unique stamp on them, each musician.
Yeah.
And that part, I was just talking with a friend last night. That's the piece that if we're all trying to be Bethel, and God bless Bethel, they're amazing. I love Bethel, right? But if everyone's trying to be Bethel, then they're not being themselves.
Right.
And the world actually misses out on that piece of themselves that they were meant to bring to the world.
Right.
And that's kind of sad. So
yeah, each community of believers has their collective things that the Lord's teaching them.
Yeah.
And while a good worship song obviously can resonate with people at many levels, I think that there's something to like the local community coming together.
Yeah.
And writing from a spot in which they're in and their people are in and can really resonate with. So that's, where our songs have definitely started from. And it kind of turned a little more personal with In the Valley. Like these are the songs that we are personally writing. But
it's kind of, I think of it like, if every church is doing that, and if every artist is doing that, and they're really pressing into like, God, what are you calling me to? And even I believe the Holy Spirit is in all of it. So like, God, what sounds are you calling me to? Or instruments are you calling me to? What uniqueness are you calling me to? And if you think about it, there's actually no competition in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Because God's not calling any two people or any two churches to be the exact same.
Right.
So we can all, it's actually beautiful because then we can just encourage each other's like all these beautiful expressions of God. And to be super blunt, have way less boring worship music.
Yeah.
It's sad when you turn on like Caleb and you can tell like just by the tuning of the drums, like this is a worship kit. You know, like it's very evident with the production and the sound that it's becoming its own thing.
Yeah. Is it so? Maybe I'm betting there's somebody listening to this who is saying, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And I think I actually know what my native tongue is, right? How do
gain the confidence to kind of broadcast that, or to put that out there to say, hey, I'm going to try doing this song in this way, or writing this tune and putting it out there in front of people, whether it's in front of their church or elsewhere? How do you gain the confidence to use that tongue?
I think obviously a huge part of overcoming that is just doing it.
Yeah.
Taking that risk and knowing that, 99 times out of 100, people are going to be like, wow, that's incredible. I've never heard something like that.
Yeah.
And, you just never know what God's going to do with a song, period. Like I have yet to understand the formula of why some songs do really take off and some songs don't. But obviously, you also have to find your own voice in your own craft and really be confident in that and really hear from the Lord that this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
That's the best word, is just do it a lot.
Yeah.
And
even when you don't want to.
That's right. Because you're going to be afraid. And
Right.
we're still afraid sometimes to put, and we still have songs that flop, relatively speaking, for sure. So, and they're some of our favorite songs too. It's like, oh, what a bummer. I don't even like that song that has way more plays. And, not really, but it's, you have that feeling of, well, and I think there's a humility in that. You have to just to the Lord to say, Lord, I'm going to give you everything, and you use what you need in the ways that you need to. But I also think doing it in community is a big win, because we've written a fair amount of songs with other people, and some even with folks at our church, or even one time we wrote one with the kids at our church. And there's something about that when you sing something that was birthed out of a spontaneous moment 8 weeks ago, or the kids helped to write, or whatever, that is just inherently people are behind it. And it's special because it's unique to that congregation. And I think the other part that people can kind of bake in, being intentional, which you kind of spoke to about, every church having their own dialect or sort of DNA, is we also all have our own language. We have catchphrases or series that we do at our churches. And so just taking those things and saying, maybe I'm going to try and write a song out of that. And sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. And trying to bless the church with that. Yeah. And then it's just courage. Okay, we're singing the new song this morning. I don't know if it's going to fly or not.
Right.
It could flop.
It could. You never know.
Yeah.
Now, you touched on something a minute ago that about kind of the idea, and that is, it always seems like your favorite songs are the ones that don't do as well, or or the one that you're it was a good song, but I'm kind of done with it, and it gets a million plays. And I heard John Mark McMillan talk about that one time. He was talking about How He Loves. So when he put out How He Loves, he had written it 2 years before that or something. He said, he was I was done with that song. I was so tired of singing it. It's, and that's, what everyone wants to hear everywhere he goes. It's I had to really get over myself a little bit and just play the song, because that's what was working. And that's what was, touching people, speaking to people. Yeah,
that's big. And there is a humility in that, of saying I don't know. I think there's very few people out there, musicians, writers, that really know which songs are going to hit and which won't.
Yeah.
And most of us are just guessing.
I don't know. I do think that some people know. If you write a Reckless Love or something, this is a special tune.
Yeah.
Right.
Really special. We haven't. Never mind. I don't know if we've ever written that special of a tune yet, but
right. You haven't written a Reckless Love or Good Father.
We definitely haven't written a Reckless Love.
Yeah.
But I think those. I think you know.
Yeah. Well, talk some more about community and how that's influenced what you do? Because it sounds like that's been a big part of Mountaintops, and even what you did before that was inviting other people into this and into writing. You touched on it a minute ago, but how does working with other people influence your work, your skill, your writing, any of that?
So much over the years. I mean, maybe the best example, I mean, for musicians that are listening, like when you jam with other musicians is when you get better.
Right.
You sing with other singers is when you get better. I played basketball as a kid, and when you play with players that are better than you, you get better.
Right.
And I think that happens with all the pieces, like writing and recording and even mixing, all those pieces. Surrounding yourself with people that are better as much as you can, or who are peers, and say, "Oh, I see the way that you do that. That's different than me. I could try that."
Yeah.
Or I really like the way that guitar sounds, or the way you wrote that one-line pre-chorus, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of little ways that I think, and then of course that's just kind of the practical stuff. But then there's the spiritual components of, like, how do you tie in discipleship and following Jesus with what we do, which is obviously huge.
Yeah.
That's I think where the refining happens with other people, is like just those long coffee chats, or the long time you sit on the couch in the studio while the guitar players,
right,
coming up with parts.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to come up with something to talk about while they're, while they're in there doing that. Yeah.
Might as well be Jesus, right?
That's right. That's right.
I think we've lately found that, some people who you might not suspect being a writer or have interest in being a writer, but they're like lyrically, like they might write, blogs, or like they might be really talented writers. And those are some of the greatest people that we've written with. It's like the non-writer writers.
Yeah.
They have a lot to bring to the table.
That's good.
And
how about your family? Because you have 4.3 children or something. Right? Is that how that works? I don't know. I don't have kids, but 4 kids and one on the way. How has having a family and having children affected and impacted your creativity in your ministry, good or bad? I'm sure I would imagine greatly, but I know it's, I don't know this firsthand. I know from talking to parents who are also musicians or writers, or you name it, creatives. That's a fear for some people, is if I have kids, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. What have you seen? What have you experienced in the last 11 years of being parents, while still diving into creative work year after year?
I think you don't fully, like, no one's ever fully ready to have children. Like, you'll never get to that point. For us, it's definitely refined our, like, if we want to do something, we have to be intentional about it. You just don't start things for fun usually. Like, we're very intentional of how we use our time, and it has to be like, when we try and say yes to a lot of things, but we have to think and pray about it sometimes, because our time is so limited.
I mean, this is a great question, and I've got a sermon locked and loaded on this one.
Let's hear it. Come on.
I've been stewing on this for a year or so. I don't remember exactly when it was, but a year, it must have been before COVID hit, a year and a half ago. There was a famous actress that did a speech at the Golden Globes or something. Yeah. And she mentioned that it was kind of a politically charged comment about choice or whatever. And she mentioned not having children was the greatest choice. Not having children earlier was the greatest choice as an actress. It's one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever heard. Yeah. Because having children is the greatest thing that I've ever done as an artist.
Yeah.
Like, in not only in practical ways, in spiritual ways, in just the creative ways. I'm more like a kid because I'm playing, spending time with them,
right,
seasoning that. But our family story was like, the reason we're in the worship ministry was because we quit traveling because of our kids,
mm-hmm.
which at first we thought, oh, this is going to kill the band thing. It's going to really kill creativity. And because we can only record during nap times or after they go to bed, whatever, and we can't go out and play shows like we used to. And then
we can't go to bars anymore and play shows.
Right.
Take a toddler to a bar. Let's go. But then what happened was the Lord used that. For anyone who's listening is fearful, the Lord used our first couple kids to take us in a completely different trajectory. And I would say, like, our, whatever you want to call it, our overall creativity is just so much more.
It's like refined.
Yeah, refined. It's better. It's more fruitful than it ever was before we had kids. And not to say that if you don't have kids, it can be, right? But for the reasons you listed, Melissa, and like for a million other reasons, I feel like having kids, I mean, I don't want to sell it too hard, but like having kids is the best thing you can do, especially as like a worship leader, as a songwriter, Christian, creative, in my opinion.
It's like ultimate creation in itself. Like,
it's
beautiful.
How many ways can we list? I mean,
right.
It really,
that's great.
Yeah, and I think, but there's also the reality that you have to be ready to say. I mean, even this right now, we're recording this at 9:51.
Right.
Because for us, we decided that we wanted to pursue these creative things, but that up till now, at least, they've largely. The Mountaintops piece, the creative piece of what we do, largely happens after 8 p.m. when our kids go to bed, or on weekends, a spare weekend here or there. So there is that piece, that being willing to work hard and hustle for it. You have to decide that it's worth it. But even that in and of itself is one of the greatest gifts, because we decided it is worth it, and it is important to us, so much so that we're willing to fight for it and stay up till 1 at times.
Right.
It's so valuable.
Yeah. So like our last album, we actually recorded at home ourselves, and it was every evening for 4 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
From like 8 till midnight of us just recording and then listening to demos and then recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's the reality of the sacrifice, but I don't know. It's like a secret code that you unlock.
Yeah.
Like, if we're going to make this sacrifice, like, it's got to be worth it. And
Yeah. Boy, yeah. We could keep going, I'm sure, but
that's great.
That's some of the goods there.
They're
also on a more funny note, they're also the toughest critics.
I'm sure.
They don't all hate it, but they're very honest most of the time. They're like, yeah, I like that one. Like, nah, I don't like that one.
Yeah.
Like, you
that's funny.
Weeks on this song.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Got to have that honesty. That's awesome.
Right.
Well, how about, I didn't send you guys this question, but how about working together? I mean, you're married, you're raising a family together, and you're trying to do this music together. How does that work? How does, is it difficult? Is it easy? How is it working, using each other's strengths? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah.
Question, yeah.
We, it wasn't until this past album that we were writing like every single night. And we learned that we have different writing styles. I am more of I need to be inspired by something. I actually dream a lot of melodies and lyrics. And so it's
wish I had that gift.
Yeah, right.
It's hard for me to sit down and be like, Nick is like, let's sit down and find a word that goes here. And I'm like, oh, please no, please stop.
Right.
And so we really did have to work through a lot of that. And come to a conclusion of like, this is how we both write, and we can write and honor each other in both processes and like really support each other in that. And we finally, after a couple of conversations that maybe were heated, maybe not, we did come to that understanding of like, okay, well, Nick is going to stop pressuring me to like sit down for 3 hours to come up with one word. And Melissa can just definitely be more accommodating to sit down and at least try and work on something, even if she doesn't feel it. So,
yeah.
But I mean, if you take a nap, you're kind of working on it too, though, right? I mean,
Just need to go to bed.
Right. Gosh, babe, we need to get this line. Can you go take a nap?
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I that's it. I mean, that's the biggest one, is that the grace we've learned of how different we are and how okay that is.
Yeah.
That actually, that's a strength to be like, if we were both the same, it probably wouldn't be good.
Sure.
And the grace to be like, you kind of have seasons off sometimes, and your grace toward me of like, you're writing 3 to 5 nights a week with all kinds of different people. And but that feeds kind of both of us in a good way in seasons, what we do with Mountaintops. But I think a lot of conversation has been healthy, a lot of prayer and conversation.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think there was a certain moment or season for us where we kind of said, really, for Mountaintops, we said, if we're going to do this, we're going to try to do it at the best level that we can do it. So we had done a lot of home recording in our previous projects, and we'd done a lot of different things. And we said, okay, we're going to go to a studio. We're going to raise some money. We're going to try to do all these things in the very top way that we know how to do. And what part of what comes with that is sort of, I think, professionalism, because we've also here for the past couple of years anyway, we're transitioning out of our church at the moment, but we've worked together too. And so I think what comes with those things is there is work, Nick and Melissa, and there's home life, Nick and Melissa. And not that they're different people, but there's also like, we know that we're not going to bring out home stuff into the workspace.
Right.
The more we do that and in a healthy way compartmentalize that stuff, the better it is. I think that we can kind of say, okay, we're going to get to work. We're going to work bring out tonight on the song. I'm not going to let the laundry bug us for a minute or whatever.
We might need to have you back on to do another episode about working together as spouses.
Oh yeah,
might need to do that. That's
and
awesome.
So many people do it, right? Like, and trying to lead worship together. And we've had a lot of different things we've worked through of like, but it's all come down to listening and communicating well to each other and not jumping, not coming too hard after each other, because we can, of course, we all have a tendency to do that when we feel like we're not seen or heard, or the other person's not bringing what we feel like they should be or whatever. And so the more we slow down and listen and talk, it's been really good. And it's actually made our marriage a lot better too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what do you love most about what you do? Or what do you hate most? I don't know. I mean, you guys had to look at each other there for a second. So,
song publishing administration. I hate that.
Yeah.
I love that though.
You're good at it. You're good at it. I hate if I have to fill out like copyright stuff or CLI stuff. I mean, you got to do all that, but
Yeah. What is it about filling out a form that just makes me so happy?
I don't know.
No, I'm totally with you. It drives me nuts to have to. Yeah. And I always check the wrong box somewhere on the form.
Those U.S. copyright site is the most antiquated nonsense thing ever made.
It doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
I think that some of the sweetest moments is, we are like, it's a little silly maybe, but we have the mission statement of like, we write and we do everything that we do so that people can have epic encounters with Jesus.
Yeah.
And real time, real Jesus, really now. His spirit is alive and can interact with us, and we can interact with him in some really mysterious way. But that's so beautiful and beyond anything I can even articulate how wonderful it is. I think the moments when people have that with something that we have put our hands to the work of.
Yeah.
You know, like we made a song, or we did a worship set, or we whatever. And you see people, or someone DMs you a story of something. So those are the sweetest moments where you get choked up and like, that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so humbling, and often out of nowhere, you know, someone will connect with something that is wasn't even like on our radar of what we might have guessed.
Yes.
Would have happened, but someone, and that's just how wonderful the Spirit is his word doesn't return void, right?
Yeah.
And that includes the sung word. So yeah, it's the best moments.
That's good. Anything to add?
No.
That's it. No, I'm with you. That's the most fun you can have with, I think, any art that you put out is just someone telling you how it impacted them. I remember the very first time that ever happened to me, something I put out, somebody reached out to me. The only person to have ever reached out to, or nothing, but at the time, it was the only person, no one had ever reached out to me about anything I'd ever done. And this guy from another country that said, "Hey, I read this and it was awesome." And I was like, "Oh, wow. Like somebody's paying attention, and it's not my mom. Like it's somebody that, you know, isn't in my network or that, you know, whatever." So yeah, I totally get that. That's awesome. Well, y'all, before we go, tell everybody where they can find you and your music and your podcast, anything else that you're working on, those T-shirts, because I want one. Where can everybody find everything Mountaintops music? Yeah.
So the best spot to connect, because we're so active on Instagram, that's the best spot, is it's at Mountaintops Music. We're on Facebook. We do that as well. Mountaintopsmusic.com.
We're the 40 plus up crowd.
And then of course Spotify and Apple Music and all that.
Right.
You can find music wherever you go for music. And then the Secret Chord podcast is a brand new thing that we just kind of dreamed up, and I've been doing for some months now, but that's
a great name, by the way. When I first saw that, I was like, man, I'm jealous. That's such a good name.
Don't say that. I was so hesitant towards that name.
Were you?
Oh, man. Yeah, we had an alternative song singers.
Oh yeah,
that I really liked.
You liked that one,
because of the alliteration.
Right.
I actually, that one, shout out to one of my good buddies, Andy J. Miller, another fellow podcaster. He and I, he really pushed a lot. You and Andy both did push me a lot of like, you've been talking about a podcast for years. You just need to do it. And
I love talking so much.
Yes, that's true. And genuinely curious about people and artists on this. And so, he has been really instrumental in helping it. But anyway, that title he came up with that. We did a little brainstorming session. So I cannot take credit, but it is amazing. As soon as I was like, that's it.
That's it. Awesome. Well, y'all, I will put links to all of that stuff in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the I don't know what it's called on YouTube, the description. I don't know. But go check out everything Mountaintops Music. Check out the Secret Chord podcast. Go follow these guys. You won't regret it. We actually connected on Instagram because we were making some office jokes on some post somewhere. Don't even know why. I was trying to think earlier how we got connected. I was like, no, it was just saying things, quoting The Office. So
God bless.
That's how.
Come on.
That's right.
How you can trust someone is
that's right.
Watch The Office and can quote it.
No, I remember seeing a comment and going, I want to be friends with these people.
Yeah.
So
it's all going to be good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for listening to the Worship Leader Coaching Podcast. For books, one-on-one coaching, and other resources, visit our website, worshipleader.me, or connect with us on Instagram @worshipleadercoaching.